So in this video, we are going to learn about mathematics, grade 7, and the first strand in mathematics grade 7 is numbers. So there are so many substrands in numbers, and today we're going to talk about fractions. So what is a fraction? It turns out that a fraction is a portion of a whole. For example, if you have anything that is whole, like this circle here, this is taken to be a whole number. And if you can divide this into, let's say, two portions, then this becomes a fraction and this becomes another fraction. So if I can divide further into two more portions, then we are going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. So each one of these is a fraction of a whole. This portion, this portion, these portions, and this portion makes a whole number. And therefore, a fraction is a portion of a whole. And therefore, if I want to take this portion that I've shaded as a fraction, then I'm going to say the one that is shaded is 1 out of 4. And therefore, we're going to conclude that a fraction is a portion of a whole. And a whole in this case can be anything, can be a fruit, can be anything that is whole. And we apply fractions in so many ways, in maybe analysis and so on. We're going to talk about terms used in fractions. So there are terms that we use in fractions so that we can be able to do more calculations, as we're going to see later on in the video. And the first term used in fraction is what we call a numerator. Now, what is a numerator? A numerator is a number that is found on the upper part of a fraction. For example, if a over b is a fraction, then a is a numerator. The second term is the denominator. Now, the denominator is a number found on the lower side of a fraction. So if a over b is a fraction, then b becomes the denominator, and we have said the numerator in this case is going to be a. Now, we have another term that we use in fractions to make our work easier, and that is over. So over in this case means the one that divides the upper part and the lower part. In this case, if you have a over b, then this line here becomes the over. So those are the terms we use in fractions to make our work easier during calculations. So let's talk about types of fractions. We have 3 known types of fractions, and we're going to discuss each one of them because in the preceding videos, we are going to do many examples involving fractions, and we are going to meet all these types of fractions that we're going to see right now. So the first type of fraction is a proper fraction. So what is a proper fraction? A proper fraction is a fraction whose numerator is smaller than the denominator. So any fraction whose value at the numerator is smaller than the denominator, then that is a proper fraction. A good example is let's say a number like 2 over 5. Now, 2 over 5 is a good example of a proper fraction. Why? Because 2 is greater than 5, and therefore this becomes a proper fraction. Now, the second type of fraction is called an improper fraction. An improper fraction is the exact opposite of a proper fraction, where the denominator is smaller than the numerator, and therefore the numerator has a bigger value. Any example I can mention is, let's say, 8 over 3. Now, in this case, this is an improper fraction because you can see the numerator has a higher value compared to the denominator. Now, the third type of fraction is what we call a mixed fraction. Now, a mixed fraction is a combination of a whole number and a proper fraction. That's what we call mixed fraction. So an example for that is, let's say, a number like 3 is a whole, and then we have any fraction that is proper, like 2 over 5. So 3 is a whole, and 2 over 5 is a proper fraction. So a combination of a whole number and a proper fraction is what we call a mixed fraction. So the next section of our video, we're going to do operation on fractions. And we have 4 operations that we can do in fractions. And we're going to begin with the simplest of the examples that we can do. But in the preceding videos, we are going to do complex problems, including word problems. So we're going to begin with the addition of fractions, then we shall do subtraction of fractions, and then multiplication of fractions, and then division of fractions. And in each case, we are going to do a simple example to get us started. Now, in the first one, we're going to talk about addition of fractions. Remember, addition is sum plus. And the first example in addition of fraction is 1 over 2 plus 2 over 3. Turns out again, both of them are proper fractions because we've said we're going to begin with the simplest of fractions. And for us to be able to add this fraction, then we must know on how to find the common denominator, or what we call the LCM. So if we find the LCM of 2 and 3, then it's going to be easy for us to be able to find the sum of this simple fraction. So for example, the LCM or the common denominator for 2 and 3 is 6. We're going to ask ourselves a question. Now, how many times does 2 go to 6? Turns out it is 3 times. So 3 times 1, you get 3, plus how many times does 3 go to 6? It is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And the answer for that is 3 plus 4 is 7 over 6. Again, we have an improper fraction as 7 over 6. It is not encouraged for you to leave the answer in an improper fraction. It's better if you leave it in a mixed fraction. So for us to be able to change this into mixed fraction, then we're going to divide. And you notice that 6 can go to 7 once, 1, and then we have 1 remaining, 1 over 6. So that becomes the answer. But there is a simpler way we can do this fraction. Let me do it quickly. So if you have, for example, a half plus 2 over 3. Now the simplest way to do such a problem is cross multiplying whatever you can see. For example, 3 times 1 is 3, and then plus 2 times 2 is 4, and then 2 times 3 is 6. So you notice this is going to be 7 over 6. And if you simplify, you go back here, and that is going to be 1 and 1 over 6. So you can pause the video, rewind, and then learn on how to do this simple method of doing fractions. So that is about addition, and we're going to do more problems on addition. So in this second part, we're going to do subtraction of fraction. Subtraction means difference or minus. So we're going to do a simple example, and that is 5 over 6 minus 3 over 5. And to do that, again, we must learn on how to find the common denominator. Common denominator is the LCM that you probably must have done in grade 6 or 5 or 4 before. And the common denominator of these two fractions is 30. That is the LCM of 6 and 5. And we're going to ask ourselves a question. How many times does 6 go to 30? And it turns out it's 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. Minus, we are going to ask ourselves another question. How many times does 5 go to 30? Again, that is 6. 6 times 3, that is 18. So finally, 25 minus 18, I believe is 7. 7 over the common denominator, which is 30, and that is the answer for that. Again, I can also use the method I used in addition to do this problem very quick. Let's do that. If I cross multiply this one and then multiply the two denominators, then I'll come back to this answer. Let's see what will happen. 5 times 5 is 25. Because this is a minus, then this is going to be a minus. 6 times 3 is 18. Divide by the common denominator, which is 6 times 5, which is 30. And you notice this is going to be the same thing we have over here. And therefore, the answer is 7 out of 30. Yes, so that is about subtraction. Let's talk about multiplication of fractions. Now, multiplication of fraction is different from addition and subtraction. Why? Because in this case, we do not need a common denominator. We simply multiply the numerator and the numerator of the first and the second fractions respectively, and also we multiply the denominator and the denominator of the first and the second fractions respectively. or numbers respectively. So in this case, we have 2 over 7 times 3 over 11, and in this case, as we said, we're going to multiply 2 times 3 divided by 7 times 11, and the answer for this 2 times 3 is 6, and this one is 7 times 11, which is 77. So that is how simple we can work out problems involving multiplication on fractions. However, it's important to note that if you have complex problems, especially problems involving mixed fractions on multiplication, then you need to be very careful when working out problems involving multiplication. So finally, let's talk about division of fractions. And division of fraction is almost the same as multiplication of fractions. However, there's something small that you need to know. For you to be able to divide two fractions, then the second fraction must be reciprocated. For you to divide a fraction, you must change the sign from division to multiplication. And for you to change the sign from division to multiplication, then you need to reciprocate the second fraction. So what do I mean by that? So in this case, we have 3 out of 11. Now, instead of division, I am going to change the division to be multiplication. But now, as I change this to be multiplication, then I need to reciprocate these two numbers or this fraction here. So instead of 6 over 22, then I'm going to have 22 over 6. That is the reciprocal of 6 over 22. The next thing I'm going to do here is to use the multiplication we did here, and that is 3 times 22 over 11 times 6, and that is 66 divided by 66. And yes, you notice 66 divided by 66 is 1, and this fraction gives us a whole number, which is still okay. And someone else would have done it like this: 3 out of 11 multiplied by 22 out of 6. When you have multiplication, you are allowed to cancel. For example, by 11 1, by 11 2, by 3 1, by 3 2, 2 cancels with 2, and 1 divided by 1 is 1. So that is about fractions. In our next videos on numbers, we're going to do complex problems involving numbers and, to be specific, fractions. And we're going to do problems involving mixed fractions and improper fractions, and also word problems involving fractions. Remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel. See you in the next video.